Nothing is static. Everything is falling apart. I know this because Tyler knows this. If people thought you were dying, they gave you their full attention. If this might be the last time they saw you, they really saw you. Everything else about their checkbook balance and radio songs and messy hair went out the window. You had their full attention. People listened instead of just waiting for their turn to speak. And when they spoke, they weren't telling you a story. When the two of you talked, you were building something. And afterward, you were both different than before. So the first book I read in 2023 was Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk, and honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed it. In December, I didn't do much reading. The last book I read, honestly, I could have gone without reading it. I wouldn't say it was a bad book, but it wasn't good either. Fight Club is a story that follows Tyler Durden and the creation of Fight Club, a club in which people or men fight each other until they can't anymore. And you see the creation of that idea and sort of how it develops a life of its own. This book is really easy to read. It's so fast-paced, and it's also pretty short. It's like 200 pages. Even though it's so scarce with its descriptions, I felt like all of the characters had a lot of depth. I was just really impressed by that because even though there's basically no explanations, sort of just guides, I still didn't feel like there was something missing from the characters. I still felt like they were complete. While reading this book, I couldn't help but compare it to Diary since I read it just a few months ago, and it's by the same author. And even though the two stories are completely different, I did note that I think the character really likes the use of repetition, and he does it really well. He has a really good sense of when to repeat certain phrases in different contexts. So something that was mentioned in the beginning could be repeated in the exact same manner towards the middle or end of the story, but in a completely different context. And that same phrase can give you something new to think about. I really need to start packing, but I don't feel like doing it right now, so I'll probably leave it to the next morning. Also, I've been thinking about which books I want to bring along, and I think I've narrowed it down to 3. The 3 books that I'm going to bring abroad with me, I think, are 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, The Idiot by Dostoevsky, and then Being Mortal by Atul Gawande. I didn't want to bring too many books because I don't think I'll have that much time to read in between going back and forth to the hospital, but also I plan on buying more books there, and books weigh quite a bit, so I don't want to come back with too much luggage. So it's 2 fiction books and 1 nonfiction. The nonfiction book, I talked a bit about it in my last video, but basically Being Mortal kind of shaped my idea of what a good doctor is, and I read it first in my 3rd year in medicine, and now that I'm in my last year, I just want to revisit this text that meant a lot to me while I was sort of relatively in the beginning of my medicine journey. Honestly, even if you're not studying medicine, I think this would be a good book to pick up just because it's important to think about your mortality and how we're all going to die. I think the majority of us don't give this inevitable thing that much thought, and it could do us some good to think more about it and think about the things that are important to us at the ends of our lives and what we would have liked to accomplish